Okay, I've literally come back from the Arctic Circle to shoot this little segment of video here. I'm just come back from our epic road trip that we just filmed out in the Arctic Circle through Finland and Norway and the like. But one of the things that was top of the agenda when I came home was to watch the Grand Tour. There's been so much hype and build up about this. I was so keen to see whether it could live up to expectations. Can it? Well, in short, in a word, yes. Yes, it did. It proved to be entertaining, funny in places, and the production values were just amazing. But I wouldn't say it was perfect either. So let's open a discussion here. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, whether you think I'm talking a load of rubbish or whether maybe you agree with me. Put some of your own ideas forward. We love having that conversation down there. So from the beginning, the whole outset of the show was very clearly post Top Gear. They made a very big point with Jeremy's introduction and the very grand opening to the show that this was a new chapter. This was a new chapter for all three of them. But then more importantly, that it was about the three of them. Let me tell you where I stood with Top Gear before we go any further. So Top Gear, the last few series that were on, I think it was feeling a bit old and tired. And in Jeremy Clarkson's own words, it was sort of became a programme about three men falling over and catching fire. The Grand Tour, they went out of their way to make a point that this is a car show. It's going to be funny, it's going to be entertaining, but at the heart of it is four wheels and an engine. And I really liked that they went out of their way to make that statement very early on in the series. We had some great cars on. There was the BMW M2, which I'm still itching to drive at the moment. And of course you had a car not too dissimilar to what I'm driving this week as my press car. Well, they're hybrids anyway. The McLaren P1, Porsche 918 Spider, and of course LaFerrari. All three cars, the supercar holy trinity, that everyone has been foaming at the mouth to find out which is fastest, of which this show did. Now I'm not going to go into which is the fastest on here in case you haven't watched the Grand Tour yet, but it's certainly worth a watch, and it sort of had me on the edge of my seat here. I think everyone had a favourite out of those three. Whether your favourite wins or not remains to be seen, potentially. It seemed to be made very fair, or as fair as possible, with the cars maybe not being run in the fastest specification that they could have been, but certainly the most equal specification that they could have been. So sort of hats off to those guys for that there. Now, there was still a good dose of silliness and things in the show, and that definitely appeals to people who watch the Grand Tour for Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May. But it was very well balanced with good, strong motoring content that, well, it wasn't exactly consumer advice, but it was certainly something that filled in maybe the blank areas for people who don't come into contact with these cars quite so frequently. Loved the idea of the tent travelling around the world. I think that opens it up to a lot of other audiences, which of course, being now an internet-based show, it needs to appeal to more than just predominantly Europeans. And I know Top Gear sort of had the snowball effect where it became a global success, but that definitely wasn't its intention from the outset. It was this pokey little BBC motoring show once upon a time, and then it just detonated into something huge. The Grand Tour from the outset is sets itself up to be that success, that key rival for that global show. Yeah, the budget is amazing. The camera work is spectacular. It's a real eyeball-popping sensation to see not just the locations, not just the cars, but the cinematography, the way it has been intricately stitched together. I mean, the cameramen, producers, directors, fantastic job, because I just don't think there is a better-looking car show at all. Full stop, rule off, new paragraph. I was totally blown away by the visuals. And of course, due to legal reasons, they can't have things like the Top Gear test track or the Stig, but they do have now their own equivalents, what they're dubbing the most dangerous racetrack that they could test a car on, the Ebola Drome, I think it was dubbed, because it looks like the Ebola virus from above, is sort of this hatchet job of tarmac, aerodrome, straight houses, obstacles, things like that. And it looks sort of more like British country road, really, than an out-and-out racetrack. So that's quite impressive that, again, they have gone out of their way to construct something that's going to test a car and not something that's just going to be the easiest flat, plain, level playing field to film cars on. It certainly looks interesting. I'd love to take a lap and see just how challenging some of the surfaces are, because you've got new tarmac, old tarmac, bumpy surfaces, and as Jeremy Clarkson said, it's designed purposely to trip cars up. So yes, maybe a bit of research and a trip maybe to go and find out where that is at a later date. Of course, the Stig is gone, and now they have seemingly, I mean, I'm not very big into NASCAR, so I didn't know the man's name when it was mentioned, but maybe people who follow NASCAR do know this chap. But he seems to be a bit of a washed-up racing driver, and he's playing the character of a very ignorant, stereotypical American who blatantly calls everything communist that isn't made in America. He had a few funny lines, but I found it to be a bit forced. I think I would rather have had somebody like Tiff Needell or an actual racing driver or ex-racing driver driving those cars, maybe making some constructive comments going around. Obviously, you can't have that silent racing driver. They will just be sued to hell and back. We'll see. We'll see whether that character evolves, becomes as iconic as the Stig. I doubt it, but maybe entertaining in later episodes. So if I were to score the first episode of the Grand Tour out of 10, it would be 7.5, maybe 8 at a push. It was really good, but no show's perfect. This wasn't. And then if you think about it, we maybe think of old Top Gear, the good old days, and maybe perfect it in our own minds a little bit. It was actually, looking back, never the most perfect show. And I think this is certainly better produced than any of the old Top Gears were. And it has similar ingredients. It's a different show. It's certainly a different show, but it still is going to please that wide demographic, isn't it? It's going to please the people who are there to watch it for the hosts and their wit and banter. It's going to please the people who are there for the cars, and for people just flicking through on Amazon looking for something interesting to watch. It's going to be the brightest, shiniest picture there. This thing is Amazon's baby. They dumped a load of money into it, and only time will tell whether it's going to be a total success, but certainly I'd say this first episode is worth watching. Anyway, I'm babbling on for far too long. I just wanted to share my opinion, and I want you guys to share your opinion too. Pop it down in the comments below, and we'll start a conversation. Let's see what you guys think. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe for all of the latest and greatest cars to hit the road. For breaking news and written reviews, visit www.insidelane.co.uk.